All right, so AutoGPT, what is it? As much as I'm trying to share everything that I've learned in the last couple days, 24 hours, 48 hours, this is as much as for you as it is for me to try to help me understand and reiterate all this information to myself, so bear with me. So AutoGPT is the new rage of the AI world right now, but it's kind of confusing, so hopefully this will help you understand it a little bit better. AutoGPT is a new set of code that was released on GitHub by someone in the community, and this code allows you to interact with OpenAI in a new way. Typically, as users, you and me and everybody else, we've been interacting with OpenAI through ChatGPT, and this is the quote-unquote user interface where we give ChatGPT a prompt, and then what happens is ChatGPT is actually what OpenAI is, and so it gets the response from OpenAI and then sends that back to the user interface, which is ChatGPT, and then that's what you and I and everybody else sees when interacting with OpenAI right now, is ChatGPT. AutoGPT is essentially another interface like ChatGPT that allows us as users to interact with OpenAI in a new way. So we are interacting with the AutoGPT code. It's not very user-friendly because it's just code that you have to install on your machine, but in this tutorial, we're gonna be using Replit to make it super easy. You need to use this code, and then you need to get your API key from OpenAI, and this allows you to interact with OpenAI, and this API key gets placed inside your AutoGPT code. And so as users, we can now interact with OpenAI, and then OpenAI is going to send back responses, and then this is where this whole thing gets really crazy. So not only is this just a new way to interact, but we can allow this to start doing stuff automatically on its own. So instead of us having to do prompts and responses like we do with ChatGPT, we have prompts, we send it questions, and then it sends back a response. That's typically how these AI things work. But in this case with AutoGPT, we can tell it to do that prompting and response all by itself without us having to do any user intervention. So for instance, if we have a tasks list and we have task 1, 2, 3, 4, and what happens is when it starts going through this task list, it's going to send the prompt for that task. OpenAI is going to complete that task, and when it completes that task, it then will complete that task, but then it's automatically going to add another one to the bottom to complete or to continue that chain. The power of this allows you to create these agents that then will go and create their own agents. So when I was playing around with it earlier, I created one called AutoGPT, and it was creating its own research bot, its own editing bot, its own proofreading bot, its own citation bot, and it would then give and create its own tasks for those other bots to then go out and complete and report back to it with that information. And that was all done from a single prompt that I entered, using this code right here. So, and this is all free and open source. So let's jump into the Replit tutorial, and I'll get you up and running with this in like 10 minutes. All right, so similar to last week, there's going to be two different platforms that we're going to need access to, which is OpenAI and Replit. So once you sign up for your OpenAI account, that's where you're going to be able to generate your API key. And then Replit is the account that is going to be able to run all of the code. So instead of having to download the code and run it on your machine locally with Python and having to install all of that stuff that can be kind of difficult, especially to average users, kind of like myself, this makes it a lot easier. So once you have those two things, then what you're going to do is use the link down below and go to this link, and we're going to click fork. And we click fork, it's basically going to clone and make a copy of this Replit, which is all of the AutoGPT code from the GitHub resource database. So we have this, we can type in clone v3, something like that. I'm gonna make mine private because I can. I would recommend that you sign up for an account as well to make your stuff private, because then you don't want anybody stealing your API keys. So next step is going to be going to OpenAI and getting your OpenAI API key. So you're going to click API keys, and then if you already have a few created here, then you're going to click create new secret key. You're going to copy that key into your clipboard, and then what you're going to do is go over into this Replit. You're going to click the plus button, and we're going to search for secrets right here. Click on it. And so in key, we're going to put in OpenAI key, and in value, we're going to paste in your OpenAI key, which should be like an SK, bunch of letters and numbers. And then the key, you're going to put OpenAI just like that. And then click add new secret. And then when you do that, that's now going to be able to connect the instance of AutoGPT that we have created and running to your OpenAI key. So after you've entered in the API key, you can exit out of that. And now you're left with the console and the code. And now, essentially, you can just click run. There's a few other steps that you can do. For instance, you can update your you can update all of these other keys to represent other resources. So for example, Pinecone is another place where you can, I believe that's for long-term storage. ElevenLabs, that's where you can you can have this speak to you. Google API key, that will allow this to do more than just the generic Google searches that it has access to just out the box, and a bunch of other stuff. So, but, you know, as just, again, we're just trying to play around with this, have fun, trying to learn. And we don't need to do any of that. So we can just click run, and theoretically this should just work. Okay, so it's going to ask me welcome back, but in this scenario we're just going to click no so we can start a new instance. Okay, so it's going to ask us, welcome to AutoGPT. Enter the name of your AI and its role below. Entering nothing will load the defaults. So we're going to call this one, let's do AuthorBot or AutoGPT. And it says AutoGPT here, I'm at your service. And so now it's asking what its role is. We're going to say you are an AI designed research, write, edit, and publish articles out AutoGPT. Okay, so now it's asking for 5 goals: research and write an article about AutoGPT. Then let's turn that article into a course. Then create a business around selling the course to people who want to make money. Let's go crazy with this. Email, newsletter about AutoGPT to promote course, generate 100 All right, so we just give it a pretty absurd task and a lot of interesting goals that are necessarily aligned with what AutoGPT is. So it's now going to give us what it thinks back. It's then going to give us a reasoning. Then it's going to give us a plan. And then it's going to give us a criticism based on its own plan. So in this scenario, it says, I think the next step would be to start researching AutoGPT for the article. I will use the Google command for this. As a research-focused AI, my initial task is to gather information on the topic of interest. A Google search would be the best way to start researching AutoGPT for the article. I agree. So its plan is to use Google to research AutoGPT to find and gather relevant information, save important information to files, manage in short-term memory, and then once it has enough information, start writing an article. And it says, I need to ensure that I don't fall into the trap of unintentional bias when researching and writing the article. I will also strive to ensure the accuracy of the information I gather by referencing multiple sources. So it kind of knows that it's writing an article about itself, which is wild. So now this next bottom prompt at the very bottom is asking for user input. And this is where this whole AutoGPT system can come into play. We can interact with it as a yes or no system. So we can just reply, why or no, and it will do that task. But what we have access to is the ability to run continuous commands. So in this scenario, I'm going to tell it to run automatically back and forth for 10 commands. And I'm going to click enter. And so what it's going to do is it's going to do and perform that first task of researching and finding information about AutoGPT to then be able to write an article. But after it completes that task, it's then going to create a new task, and then it's going to then complete that task. When it completes that task, then it's going to create a new one and then complete that one. And then it's going to do that for 10 iterations. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so it looks like we got a little bit of a bug, valid JSON, but it's still going. So it still has all of this information in its memory, it looks like. And so this is the crazy part. So now I'm just like I'm not touching anything. I'll just kind of hang out here and just kind of see what this does. Okay, so it says, now that the article has been written, the next step is to turn it into a course. Okay, so did it already write an article? Let's see, did it already write an article? Oh yeah, so there's the course. Okay, so now I just saw this one pop up. So this is the email or newsletter. Okay. So now the course has been created. The next step is to promote via email. I will use, so that's the email. So now the email. Okay, so now it wrote an email about AutoGPT. Okay. Now it says next step is to create an email newsletter. Okay, so now it's creating the newsletter. Okay, so now it says, I will use the browse website to command to look for potential customers, business, and individuals that might be interested in an AutoGPT course. Okay, yeah. Okay, so now it's so this is where it's really awesome. So now it's creating a new bot to perform and delegate the task of browsing websites, so that way it can then add them and compile them to a list. Okay, so now it's talking. Okay, so it's gonna run into some problems here probably because this search is a little off course. Okay, yeah. So it's trying to do the data mining for email addresses, but that's a typical response because that's not something that it can do right now yet. But so it's now talking back and forth to each other. So now it told that to the AutoGPT bot. And now it says, I understand the limitations. So now it's creating a new agent that will specialize in generating content related to coding, automation, and AI for the AutoGPT course. So that was all hands-free, and it created an article. It created a course outline, created an email. It created a newsletter about the course, all of that from that just initial prompting. So now it's asking for my input again. So we can say yes or no, but we can also send it we can just type in anything else. So let's say complete part a little bit because this is all open source. This is code that was released last week. This is all stuff that's relatively new. So if it hangs up, it's not necessarily, a surprise because it's something that's just kind of hacked together, so to speak. So being able to just kind of play around with it and being able to see kind of the power of how it creates its own bots and doing different things, it's quite fascinating, and it's really interesting to see how you can apply this to your own stuff. So I'm going to be playing around with this kind of all weekend just to see different use cases that I can use and start adding different other resources, third-party resources to this, so I can start utilizing that as live information as well. So I'll have links down below. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to me on Instagram. Looks like we just got another. Oh yeah, fantastic. Look at that. So the power, the power of this is kind of, it's fascinating. It's fascinating that you can create bots that will create their own bots, but you still have to be able to create the idea around what it is that you're going to create. Like there's still a generous amount of prompting that's needed in order to kind of, get everything together. So I hope this tutorial helped. I know this is all stuff that I'm learning in real time. So I hope that I can learn it and then be able to share it with all of you, because that's what I enjoy doing. So I hope you guys have a ton of fun with this. Be careful, be safe. Don't share your API keys. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.